Talking all things entertainment, this is Sherri Pullum in the studio with Dreamers Unite. Booking your way to success with talent and booking agent Dino Perera. Hey Dreamers, and welcome to In the Studio with Dreamers Unite. Well, you know that I am grateful every time you come to spend time with me. And this is the place where we dream, share, and manifest through our guests, through their incredible stories, through their journey. And of course, I try to catch and throw as many nuggets your way as I can. Well, this guest I have to sit today, he is phenomenal. Dino Perera is his name, and he is a talent booking agent. He has his own company, Dinoco Entertainment. I hope I said it right. Is it Dinoco or Dinoco? Okay, we were talking about that before. Dinoco Entertainment Company. He started out as a DJ and then music producer extraordinaire. He is still producing Power 105 FM. Right? We are still there. We are going to learn more and more about him and find out about his incredible, and I mean incredible journey. Dino, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for being here. So let's kind of start from the beginning. We've been talking offline, so I have a lot of things to share with you, and I know Dino does too. I'm excited. So let's just start from the beginning, because I always love to start to see where does that seed of inspiration come from for you to even start your own company. And you were a DJ at 13 years old. He was a DJ. How did that happen? And then who were you DJing for at 13?
Well, I had a cousin, my cousin Carl, just happened to go out and buy some turntables, and he was actually a teacher. He used to teach at a daycare center. And he over there bought some turntables and a mixer and stuff. And he started to do parties. And he had a guy named Eddie and another guy named Guado that used to play for him and work with him when they used to do parties. And I used to always ask, can I come? Can I come? Can I come? My mother was like, no, you're too young. You can't go. But he started doing parties during the day on the weekends, and she was like, yeah, you can go. So I was to go, and I used to just sit there and watch those guys play. Got in trouble a lot, because now I'm sitting there watching these guys play music, and then I used to go home and get on my mother's component set and just try to scratch on a component set, messed up a bunch of needles and got in trouble. So that's really kind of started. So as I got older, I started going to do events with my cousin Carl, and it just kept going, and it just kept going and going, and it just kept manifesting.
Wow. And you had obviously there was this young passion, this desire. Was that something that you thought about?
Well, I've always been around the music.
Got it.
Because I had actually it's funny because Carl's brother, his name is Bobby. Bobby used to be signed to Roulette Records. And so wow. It just was I was always around the music. So, you know, it was just like a domino effect of things.
Yeah, it was really right in your DNA. So you were not going to escape the music.
Nah.
Yeah. So how did you start with WBLS and working with the legendary, and I mean legendary, Vaughn Harper?
I'm going to be very honest with you. I over there was in college, and I used to listen to BLS all the time. I knew Vaughn from BLS, but there was two other guys that used to do mix shows on BLS, a guy named Timmy Regisford and another guy named Merlin Bob. And I just happened to have a chance meeting with Merlin one day when I was coming out of school. And a friend of mine knew Merlin, and he was like, yo, Dino, you know who this is? I'm like, nah. And I'm looking the guy up and down like, I don't really care. I just got out of class. I'm ready to go home. And he was like, oh, this is Merlin Bob. I'm like, oh, what? I'm like, hey, man, I listen to you and Timmy every weekend on the radio. And I was like, yo, I'd really love to send you a tape. And he was like, yo, here's my card. Send me a tape. I went home and I mixed the tape. And I think I mixed this tape over and over and over. I'm my own worst critic because I never think it's that good. Sent him a tape and never heard from him.
Okay.
So I was like, oh my God, my tape must have really sucked. Then I got a call a couple of weeks later. He was like, hey man, I'm sorry I didn't get back to you. I was out of town traveling, and he goes, you should come by the station this weekend and hang out with me and Timmy. I was like, really? He was like, yeah. And I met him at the station, and I was there with them, watching them do their show live. And I kid you not, I just showed up every Saturday after that.
Wow. Talk about persistence.
Uninvited. I just showed up every Saturday, watching how they did the show and just taking everything in. And one Saturday, I get to the station, and now people know me, so they were just letting me in.
Got it.
And I'm there, and I'm like, it's almost time for them to go on, and there's nobody there. So I call Timmy. I was like, yo, Timmy, there's nobody here to do the show. He was like, oh, Merlin must be out of town. He must have forgot. He was like, yo, come and get these tapes. And I went, and I put the tapes on. Now, mind you, I wasn't hired, not cleared to work, but I did the show, and it was just, after that, it just came a domino effect. And I mean, I had known Vaughn for a long time. And Frankie Crocker was the program director, and he was there, he left. The last time Frankie came back, I started going up to the station a little bit more, and I was talking with Vaughn all the time. And one day I went into the studio, and I told Frankie, I said, yo, I want to learn how to work the board. And Frankie's engineer was a guy named Jim Weiner. And Frankie was like, you want to learn how to work the board? Go in there and watch Jim Weiner. And that was on a Wednesday. I'll never forget it. I went in there, and I'm watching Jim Weiner, watching him do what he do. I'm asking questions and doing this, that, and the other. I stayed when Vaughn did his show, watching Vaughn. A couple of days later, Vaughn went in there and looked at Frankie, and I was sitting there. Vaughn was like, he's ready. And they told me, they were like, Sunday you start working with Vaughn. And wow. I was with him ever since.
Wow, that is an incredible story. That's when preparation meets opportunity, right? Because you were ready. Now, this is you don't know this yet, but on this show, this is Dreamers Unite, and we try to catch, or I do, as many nuggets as I can, and that's a golden nugget that you just gave. Dreamers, are you ready for this? Okay, this is the golden nugget, okay? Because, what I find is so inspiring, and I don't think young people always do this today. Sometimes they might try once, and they're like, oh, I tried, I didn't get it, or I called once and they didn't pick up the phone, or they didn't answer my text, or they didn't, but you were actually persistent. You just showed up without a job. You were learning, you were curious, you stayed focused on your goal, and you were open to every possibility. Okay, that's a lot. I know, that's a big nugget, but I'm gonna catch this one from you, Dino. Boom. There you go, dreamers. You know what? What you just said it's just so huge, because it's one thing to get an opportunity, but if you're not prepared for the opportunity, you're not gonna be able to.
It was very interesting, because when I first initially started hanging out with Timmy and Merlin, as I said, I used to just show up at the radio station waiting for them to get there. Wow. And when they used to do parties, I used to be like, hey, can I come? Like, carry records, never got paid. I was like, yo, man, I really want to I want to DJ. Let me play. They're doing these huge clubs. There's 5,000 people there. I mean, I'll never forget, we did the big party at the Palladium, which was a huge club here.
Oh, yeah.
It was a huge club. And I was like, yo, man, y'all let me play. They was like, yeah, we're going to let you play tonight. I was like, oh, wow, I'm going to get a chance to play in front of all these people. They cut the lights up. Party's about to be over. It was like 10 minutes left. They were like, here, go ahead and play.
Wow. What I love how excited you are too. Like when we talk about it, I can see you DJing, because you are like, already doing your thing here with your body language. I wouldn't have changed anything. Some experiences, you sit there and you just continue to use those as motivation throughout life. And those things just kept me motivated all the way through. Right. And so I read that you went from like an assistant or account rep, then 6 weeks later, you became an A&R assistant,
yep.
Right? And then all the way to general manager. 6 weeks. So again, you've shown us your drive, your hunger, and your determination, but tell us some of the steps. How did you get there?
Well, at the time when I started hanging out with Timmy and Merlin was still mixing on the radio, but they both had, left the station. They were still doing shows there, but they had left the station to go into the record company business. So Timmy was a A&R director at MCA, and Merlin was over at Atlantic Records. And as time went on, they were like, yo, we got to get you into a record company. And they, record company people know each other. And there was a job open at Polygram Records for an account service rep. And at that time, an account service rep was basically the person that went out to all of the different record stores and made sure that they were serviced with all of our new releases. Hey, here's stores copies for you to play in the store. Here's posters for you to put up. I would go and, if an artist was in town, I'd take them to the record store so they can play the music in the store and they sign autographs. That was my job. So I had stores on 125th Street. I had stores in Queens. So you have to go, a lot of moving around. And Merlin called me and was like, hey man, we got something's going on over here. I want you to come over here and meet Sylvia Rohn, who is now, Sylvia is now the CEO of Epic Records now.
That's right. Wow.
And I was like, okay. I went over and met with her. Sylvia was like, Merlin's told me about you. I've heard this, that, and the other about you. She said, I want to hire you as an A&R assistant. She said, do you want the job? I said, yeah. She was like, all right, you start Monday. And I had only been at Polygram for 6 weeks. I was like, okay. So I had to go to Polygram and resign because I was starting as an A&R assistant at Atlantic.
Right. That was probably the best, resignation letter ever.
It was just overwhelming, And as soon as I walked through the door at Atlantic, I'm on the phone with Gerald Levert. I'm doing records with 10 City. I'm doing records with Mickey Howard. We're doing records with The System. We're doing records with MC Light, with Audio 2, and this person and that person. It was really overwhelming.
I bet. But you handled it, obviously.
Yeah, I was determined to learn as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And, I wanted to sit there and be good at everything that I did. So I was just, kept my nose to the grindstone and just kept, trying to absorb everything.
Yeah, I think that's so wonderful how you were on the road to just learning. You just sound like you were just open to every opportunity. And you just attracted open, and every opportunity was just coming your way and you were ready for it. Every time an opportunity came, well, even if you weren't 100% ready, you were like, I'm going to do it.
I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah, you were going to give it a shot. So tell people, some of our dreamers are wanting to get into the music industry, like A&R. What does that even mean?
Well, A&R is a major function at a label, and it's basically it's short for artist and repertoire. Mm-hmm. And basically what an A&R person is, some people call it a talent scout, whatever. An A&R person is, your job is to go out there and find artists, try and get them signed to the label. And then once that happens and they're signed to the label, your job is to go out there and you're finding producers, you're finding writers, you're finding, engineers, you're going to be dealing with studios, you're going to be dealing with, the publishing aspect of it. You're basically shaping the whole career of the artist.
Wow.
You're an A&R person, but you're also part psychologist because you're dealing with so many different personalities. Right. And you're trying to sit there and go out there and find an artist that's gonna go from unknown to Beyonce.
Mm-hmm. And that's not easy.
No.
What offering, I like to say offering, I don't say advice anymore, but what offering can you give our community if someone out there is interested in A&R and they wanna help shape an artist's career? And I'm sure it's changed a bit from when, so what tangible 1 or 2, 3 steps that they could take now?
Well, I think the first thing is that they have to be true to the music that they have to understand and know the music that they like. You can't go out there and I'm not a rock person, so I'm not going to sit there and be like, okay, I'm going to go out there and find the next big rock act because I don't know rock music. Mm-hmm. I do know R&B music. I do know hip hop. I do know jazz. I do know reggae. I know what good records are, and I know what a good artist sounds like in those genres of music. So you have to be true to the music that you love first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Secondly, you have to have some kind of ear for talent. You know, you can go out there. There's a ton of different artists out there, and this is no disrespect to anybody, but everybody's not going to become the next Beyonce or the next Michael Jackson or something like that. You know, there has to be some kind of special quality that this artist has. So you have to be able to sit there and you have to be able to notice if a person really has talent. Is that diamond going to turn, you know, are they going to be, the diamond in the rough going to turn into that polished product?
Right. And you all, like you said, it takes more than just talent, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to have drive, determination, persistence, the right kind of relationship. Everyone's not always a great communicator, right?
No,
You're
not
artist, right? And you really need to have a business sense, right?
Yes.
So speaking of business, let's talk about your talent and booking company. And now you're working with the NFL, NBA, WNBA, NHL, and you just told me about baseball. So you're providing these wonderful entertainers and performing artists with all these huge leagues. How did that happen?
I was actually, once I had left working at the record labels, I was still working at radio, and a friend of mine had called me and told me that an agency was looking for somebody to come in. And I was like, I've never been a talent agent before and none of that. I'm like, bro, that's not something I do. He was like, yeah, just apply and see what happens. So I went in and I did the interview, and I looked at their roster and I was like, well, I know a lot of these acts on your roster. And they were like, yo, you seem like you would be somebody that could be. Well, so I went in as a agent's assistant, and I think 6 months after that, they made me an agent. So it was just one of those things. I went in and I started to really learn about it, about the side of the business of booking concerts, booking shows, booking appearances, and things of that nature. And, you know, I was with the company for 7 years, but during that 7 years, you know, I started to see some of the things that they were doing and, you know, having conversations with artists and managers about how they felt they weren't getting treated correctly by agencies and stuff like that. And then I decided one day, I was like, well, you know, if I ever get the money, I'm going to sit there. I probably might start my own company. And I was asking acts. I'm like, yo, you know, if I started my own company, what would you do? They were like, yo, we cool with you. We roll. We would definitely be willing to work with you. And I went to South Africa with an artist. I DJ'd. I went over with her as a DJ. And the money I made from that, when I got back home, I called my accountant and I was like, hey man, I need to create my own company. Wow. And started that, and it was rolling. But as I was working for this other agency, I had another friend call me, and he was like, hey, he had another friend that was in kind of it was in a hard spot because they had booked an artist to perform, and she just happened to be the vice president of entertainment for the New Jersey. Well, they were the New Jersey Nets at the time.
Okay.
And they had booked an artist to perform, and they called the artist to kind of consummate the deal and start booking flights and stuff. And they were like, "Nah, we're not coming." They were like, "What?" They said, "We signed a contract." They were like, "We're not coming." So they needed somebody to fill in, and they called me and see if I could help them. So I sent them some names. I was like, look, if we try to book somebody that doesn't live here, you're going to pay a ton of money on flights and hotels and all of that. Let me see if I can find somebody local. I sent them some names of local acts, people that lived in the New York, New Jersey area, and they happened to pick out Freddie Jackson. And I called Freddie Jackson's sister up and was like, hey, this is an opportunity. Would he be interested? She was like, yeah, we'll be interested. They did it, and I just was like, well, I'd like to keep working with y'all. And they were like, fine. And I just kept booking stuff with the Nets. And then I was like, well, can I use y'all as a reference? I would like to reach out to other teams. And they were like, sure, please, you can use us as a reference. It's no problem. And it was just a trickle down effect. And then, and my transition from the other agency it was a leap of faith, because I was like, I had to leave that other company because I wasn't really comfortable with some of the things that was being asked of me. So I was like, I'm going to take this leap of faith and just go out on my own and see what happens. And I spoke to several of the teams that I was dealing with, and they were like, we have no problem working with you. And it was funny because I think 6 months after I had left the company, I was doing a date, with the team that just won the NBA championship, the Denver Nuggets. And I still deal with the same young lady there. And she over there, I was booking an artist, and she had sent an email to my old email address at the old company. And one of the guys got the email, and he was like, oh, his company is not real. He's not this, he's not that. And she just called me, and she was just totally flustered about it. She was like, oh, Dino, these guys are not cool. And she said, I told them, Dino has done everything he's supposed to do. He's given us all the requisite paperwork, and we're doing business with him. We're not doing business with you. And it's just kept going and going and going.
Yeah, well, listen, part of it is because you're that secret ingredient that helps it to keep going and going and going. You know what I mean? You've built up a great reputation and trust and hardworking. And so I think your reputation speaks for itself.
Thank you.
And it sounds like you just seem to be in the right place at the right time. It's like,
it happens
we
like
just
that a lot.
happened, yeah, we just
like
happened to need something. And all of a sudden it's like, Dino to the rescue. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's been very funny because a lot of times teams will call me and they were like, well, we had somebody booked, but it kind of fell out. Can you find somebody to fill in? And I've actually kind of came through on a lot of that. So a lot of times they'll sit there and they'll call me when they have a last minute booking or something like that. And I'll be like, okay, let me see what I could do for you. And 9 times out of 10, I get it done.
You get it done. Well, I think you're probably 10 out of 10. You're getting it done because they're still calling you back. I'm going to give you the 10 out of 10. I'm going to give you a big 10.
Thank you.
So what does it take besides being at the right place at the right time? What does it take to be a booking agent? And then how do you match sort of the artist to the event or, even with the NFL or the, whatever team league you're working with? How do you match the artist?
Well, I think the first thing about being a booking agent is understanding what being a booking agent is. A booking agent is a person that goes out and finds talent work, be it concert, be it a private appearance, be it movie deals. When I was at the previous agency, we had got an email from a Broadway show, and they were like, hey, we would like to bring an artist in to read for this role. Mm-hmm. And they gave the email to me and they were like, this is not what we do. But for some reason, when I read the email, I was like, this seems like a real situation. And it was a show on Broadway called Hairspray. Mm-hmm. And they wanted Tevin Campbell to read for a particular part. And I was like, something about this just feels like it's real. Mm-hmm. We called every number we had, called everybody, hey, Tevin Campbell, I don't know where he's at. I got desperate. I called Quincy Jones's office and spoke to his assistant. And I explained to her what was going on. I was like, look, this seems like a real situation for Tevin. I don't know if he's interested, but, I would like to know if he's interested. She was like, give me all your contact information. I'm going to reach out to his mother. His mother called me back, and I explained to her what was going on, and she was like, I think he would be interested in doing it. So I went back to the casting company, and I was like, hey, I got in contact with Tevin. He would be interested in reading for it. Y'all would have to bring him into New York and this, that, and the other. They were like, well, that's not what we do. They were like, if he wants to read for the part, he's going to have to get himself to New York. He's going to have to put himself in a hotel and this, that, and the other. I was like, but he's not going to be able to do that. And they were like, all right, we'll get back to you. And I got the company to bring him in, fly him in, put him in a hotel.
That's great.
And I went over and met him at the hotel. And I was like, yo, you ready for your audition? He was like, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. He's like, you coming with me, right? I was like, all right, yeah, I'll go with you. We went, he did the initial audition, but then they were like, well, we want to see him again this afternoon at a totally different spot. We were like, okay. Went, had lunch, went to the other spot, took him back to the hotel and everything. Got the call the next day. They were like, he's got the part. He was on Broadway. He was on Broadway for 3 years in a starring role.
A starring role.
And then left that. When he left that, then he went to Australia and was in the show in Australia for 2 years.
That is, we're just going to do that. We're just going to do that because that is amazing. I love the way that you fight for your artists and really advocate for them.
Well, that's the problem. I think that a lot of artists are having right now is that you have a lot of agencies out there. All they're worried about is making the money. And I tell people all the time, I'd rather have a long relationship in us making money for a long time over the years as opposed to making a big bunch of money right now and then it's over.
Yeah. And not seeing the big picture as opposed to just seeing what you can get right now.
Well, the other problem is that as far as when you're talking about certain artists, we don't have a lot of representation. You know, black artists a lot of black artists don't have, but there's not a lot of black agencies out there.
Yeah, you mentioned that to me offline. We were having a great conversation offline, and you mentioned how it's really pretty bad out there.
Very.
It's super
Very.
challenging. What do you think? I mean, obviously we need more Dino Pereras, in your own style and in your own way, because you can't be anybody else but you. Okay, I'm not trying to tell you to be Dino. I'm saying be you. But perhaps there's an opening, and that's why I do this show in the studio to talk about the vast opportunities in entertainment. Many times people think of entertainment, it's only in front of the camera. They don't realize how many actual positions are behind the scenes that you may make a great living at and really enjoy. So what do you think for someone, maybe now we'll shift on to your booking agent, we're leaving the music producing, but putting on that hat and maybe having an offering to one of our dreamers out there who is interested in perhaps being a booking agent.
Well, what you need to understand is that in the music business, my personal opinion right now is that you have a lot of great artists out there, but they have awful representation. Mm-hmm. You know, I know, and I don't want to say who the artist is, I reached out to an artist about doing an event, and the artist was very popular and very hot at the time. And, you know, I reached out to the manager, I emailed him, I called him, and couldn't get the guy on the phone.
Wow.
You know, now the artist is behind bars, but, you know, the representation of a lot of these acts is bad. That's just like when you look at a lot of the more older acts, mm-hmm. you know, the big agencies sit there and just totally forget about them. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're not hot and right now, you know, they'll be like, yeah, well, you know, we'll book you if the phone rings. You know, what I do, I'm very proactive about when I'm booking acts. I'm constantly on the phone, you know, reaching out to different venues, reaching even not just here, but all around the world. You know, I think when I initially created my company, I wanted to create it as a triangle. I wanted to have the talent management part of it, mm-hmm. the talent booking part of it, and I wanted to do a record label. You know, because I also do talent management. I manage, you remember the artist Sybil?
Of course.
She had the song Don't Make Me Over, Walk On By, huge records. I manage Sybil. And, you know, Sybil is still working a ton. We travel all over the world. I mean, we've had a couple of tours canceled because of COVID, but, you know, I think that that's the biggest problem with a lot of acts right now is the management and the representation that they have. Because one thing I don't do is I don't not pay attention to when people email me. Mm-hmm. I always try to return emails. There's a lot of people out there that would love to book Beyonce. It's one thing wanting to book her. It's another thing being able to afford to book her. Mm-hmm. That's a very big difference. Mm-hmm. You got a lot of people out there who would love to book her, but you can't afford her. So you might be able to book an act, but you may not be able to book a Beyonce.
Right. So it's kind of starting off where you can first, yes. right? And then working your way, building relationships as you've done. Because you just never know what relationship could be the bridge. You never know. Crosses you over. That's another little Dino, boom, boom.
But I'm gonna give you a perfect example. I had a friend of mine put me in contact with another guy. The guy was like, well, I'm thinking about trying to book After 7. I was like, okay, I'll reach out to After 7. I know Kevon Edmonds very well. I reached out to Kevon. Kevon was like, hey, Dino, I'm going to put you in contact with our new manager. And I spoke with the manager the other day, and he was like, you're not the Dino Perera that used to be at RCA Records, right? I'm like, yes, I am. He goes, you don't remember me, but I remember you. I'm like, okay, refresh my memory. He was like, oh, you remember y'all had a girl group named Black Girl? I'm like, yeah. I said, Black Girl was, I said that Allison Paul Gabriel was the A&R person for that on the West Coast. He said, oh, I was their manager. He was like, I was tall, light skinned. He was like, Jamel Graves. I'm like, oh, I remember you now. He's like, yeah, I remember you. I'm managing After 7 now. Long story short, now he was like, anything you want, we're going to work. We want to work with you.
That's great.
I remember you from back in the day. And I'm like, okay, cool.
That's really great. That's really great.
I try not to burn any bridges, treat people right. They remember you treating them right, but they also remember when you're treating them bad.
Yeah.
I think they'll remember that more.
Oh, for sure. They will remember that more. And you just now, like you said, you just never know who's going to be in what position to give you another opportunity.
Yep.
So, it's best not to burn bridges. But sometimes we do, if it's a toxic relationship.
Yeah, sometimes you got to let it go.
You got to let it go. Just like you said, you didn't feel comfortable. I love the fact that you listened to your own inner voice with your other job and or other position, and then realized maybe this isn't going to serve me well right now.
No.
So that's really a really great thing. So I want to shift into your radio hat.
Okay.
You wear so many hats. Do you sleep? Do you sleep?
Very rarely.
Okay, that's what I want to know. Does he sleep? Okay, he doesn't sleep. Okay. We're going to talk a little bit about self-care, so, Dino, we might have to talk to you about that no sleeping thing. But let's talk about your 105 still producer. How did you bring that dream team breakfast club together? Did you bring that?
No, I didn't.
Okay, you didn't bring them together.
No.
But tell us a little bit about a producer there and what does it mean to be a radio producer?
A radio producer basically is the nuts and bolts of a show. Basically, you have some people that do shows and all they do is they talk. Like, basically, my job is basically to handle all of the hard work. I play all the music, I play all the commercials, we do the contesting, all of that. You handle all of that stuff. You sit there, depending on the artist or the jock that you're working with, you might book artists to come and do interviews. You have to sit there and be able to make sure that you know how to structure the interview, make sure that you got everything placed right. Recording the interview, you have to edit the interviews because we do, when you do, and that the problem is that when you bring a certain artist in, you're doing a radio interview and you're recording it, but they're cursing. So you got to make sure you got to edit and cut all the curses out, stuff like that. So it's tedious sometimes because you're doing the same things over and over every day. But repetition, you become very good at what you do when you do a repetition. And so 22 years later, now I'm at
22 years later, 17 years with your company. Right, 22 years, starting DJing at 13.
I'm actually still DJing.
And still DJing. So with all that you have on your plate, how do you live a balanced life? Or do you live a balanced life?
I think I do.
Okay, so how do you do it? Because I know a lot of people want to know. I mean, even for me, I'm always interested in catching that nugget because I do think wellness is so important. Taking care of ourselves is so important. So how do you stay balanced? You have so much on your plate.
Well, first and foremost, I have never ever drank before a day before my life. I've never drank alcohol. I've never even tasted a beer. I've never smoked a cigarette, never tried any kind of drugs, weed, anything. I've just never done it. It was never something I've ever wanted to do. I never tried that. So that's one thing. I try to get in the gym as much as possible.
Great.
I was an avid athlete, played basketball, football. I played basically everything. And then I started playing racquetball. Once I started playing racquetball, I really got into that. So I really like playing racquetball. And, playing racquetball, it's sort of like it's, you can kind of release a lot of frustration playing racquetball because I'm sitting there swinging and hitting at the ball. So I'm just releasing as much as frustration as possible.
Maybe I'll try racquetball.
It's a great game. It's great cardio. You're moving around, you're running around. You got to think about what your next shot is going to be, how to get your opponent out of position, score. It's great. It's a great game. Plus, my family, I'm very much into my family. I have a son who I'm very happy and very proud of. He's come out of college and started his own company, watching what I do. And, he came to me one day and was like, I think I want to start scoring movies. And I'm like, where did that come from? Because I've never known him. I've taken him to the studio with me, to the radio station. And he was like, I want to start scoring movies. And when he got out of college, he started scoring these web series and stuff like that. And now, he just did his first major motion picture with BET.
Wow, congratulations. What's your son's name?
Dominique.
This is a shout out to you from Sherri at Dreamers Unite. Keep dreaming your dream. And congratulations to you.
He just finished a project with the Apollo Theater.
Wow.
Which is going to be on display in the lobby of the Apollo, I believe. And they pushed it back. I believe it's going to be starting in January. So
he'll have to come on Dreamers too next time. We'll have to have him up here.
He's rolling. He's been nominated for Best Music Score on some of the films that he's worked at.
Yeah, I would love that because, we need to know again. What does it take, in this entertainment? Everything is really entertainment, really.
Yeah.
It truly is. Everything is entertainment. Okay, before we go on to our next segment, because we have a caller for you that's going to ask a question, or a video caller, I should say. How do you, or what do you attribute, or who do you attribute your success to? Because you've been very driven since a really early age. What do you attribute that to?
I think I got that. I think I got it from my mother and father. My father is from Belize, and my father came to the United States when he was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. And I've just watched him, just continue to move forward. He was always there for his family, always there for us. And, in life, he's always had his car, he has a house, 2 boats, because my father was an avid fisherman.
My dad was a fisherman too.
So, my father loved to go fishing, so we used to always go fishing, and then he was like, I'm getting myself a boat. I'm like, you're getting a boat? He has a house, a boat, cars and everything, he retired now, so I always just watched him, and he was just always nose to the grindstone, and just constantly built a life for himself, and I was like, okay, I want to do that, but I'm going to one up him and see if I can do better.
I love it. So you're competitive, obviously.
You have
to be a little competitive, right?
Of course.
That is great. So before we go into our next segment, that's your camera there. You're so inspiring. You really, really are. Is there anything you want to tell our dreamers right now, just a nugget on your own to give our dreamers?
That dreams are not dreams. You can always manifest it. You can always sit there. I'm one of those people that if I don't know something, I'm going to go out there and try and find the information and learn it. And, just keep getting better and better at what I do, but you definitely have to be a people person. I remember one time I was working with a guy named Miller London. Miller London used to work for Motown back in the day, and he was working with us at RCA at the time. And I asked him, I was like, how do you have a long-lasting relationship and a long-lasting career in the entertainment business? He said 2 things. He said, always be a people person and always return phone calls.
Okay. Always be and you can really apply this to almost any industry. Be a people person. If you're not, maybe this entertainment might not be the career for you, or at least a booking talent agent might not be it. But being a people person and returning a phone call.
Yeah, because a lot of times I know people I get calls all the time. They were like, oh, I called this person, I called that person. They didn't even return my phone call.
Yeah.
And that kind of burns people sometimes. They be like, you're that busy you can't return a phone call?
Yeah, that's right. And you never know what opportunity awaits on that other line.
Yeah, you never know.
Yeah, you
never know. That's how come I always tell artists. Artists was like, oh, this person reached out to me, I didn't respond to them. I'm like, how do you know what this person has to offer unless you sit there and have a conversation? They may not be able to pay you the money you want, but every booking you never know what that booking might be. May not be any money involved, but it might just be a good look for your career.
That's right. That's right. Everything isn't always about money either.
It's not. It's about the big picture. And
It's
a lot
about
of
the big
people
picture.
don't look at the big picture. They look at what's right in front of them. You have to look at the big picture.
Yeah, well, Dino Perera, you have looked at the big picture, and there is, I know, so much more on the horizon for you, but I am not letting you go yet. We are moving on to our question and answer segment, and I really do hope that you all had your phones out, taking some notes, or your computers, or just a good old-fashioned notepad and pen, because you dropped a lot of great nuggets and some really valuable expertise, wisdom, knowledge, and I thank you for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. It is time for our question and answer segment with Dino Perera. Up next. We are back here with Dino Perera, talent and booking agent extraordinaire. And now we are going to have a question from Tanisha Bradley for you, Dino.
Okay.
So let's roll it.
Hi Dino, my name is Tanisha and I'm the creative executive of Next Phase Media Group. And so my question to you is, as a guru, as an expert, as a pioneer when it comes to talent booking and AI representation and everything you've done combined in your music career, because today music has changed its pathway drastically, what would you suggest to some of the new and upcoming artists, some of the things that they should do to be recognized, to stand out? Now there's a fight against AI, and so a lot of the tools that come natural with musicians and artists are now being compromised. So what would you say to those who really want to stand out and bring something original, and then to the people who want to represent them, what do they have to do to make sure that they're being seen and heard?
That's a big question, Tanisha. Take it away, and thank you for that.
I think that what any artist should do, be it established or up and coming artists, with technology has done a lot of great things, but I also believe that technology has also hurt the music business. Don't get me wrong, I have an iPhone, I have a MacBook, all of that, but I think Apple has really hurt the music business, because before, when people wanted to be exposed to music, they would listen to the radio, then they would hear a record on the radio, they would go to a record store and be like, I heard this record on the radio. Now you can just click online and you can go listen to somebody's album and listen to their entire album. And if you don't like the album, you can only pick and choose songs. There's no way an artist is going to be able to live off of you picking and choosing 1, 2, 3, or 4 songs off of that album. Because once Apple takes their cut, once the record label takes their cut, what kind of royalty is the artist going to see? Any artist has to remain true to their music, to their craft. And as I said, I know AI, don't get me wrong, I have a lot of different things that I use technology-wise that makes life much easier. But I think that they have to remain very, very, very hardened on what they do as an artist. If you're a real artist and you're a good artist and you put good music out there, people are going to go out there and they're going to find it, and you have to be able to sit there. And there's a lot of new ways to get your music to people: YouTube, TikTok, all of these ways, because this is the way people are absorbing their music. Radio is hurting right now because a lot of artists don't really care about their records being played on the radio. They worry more about having their records played on YouTube and TikTok. That's where most of the younger generation are finding their new music.
Right.
So they have to remain very steadfast about their social media content and exposing themselves to the masses, because it's not like, 15, 20 years ago where people can go and like, I want to buy a cassette, I want to buy a CD, I want to buy the record, I want to buy a 12-inch, I want to buy a 45.
Right.
Now it's about downloads. And back then you could sell 1 million records because you sold X amount of records, X amount of CDs, X amount of cassettes. Now it's about downloads. And once you do that download, you got to remember all of those aggregators, be it, Apple, whoever, once they get their piece and the record label gets their piece, you're not going to see a lot of money as a road. That's why now most artists are making their most money on live performances. That's why talent agents and management are the most important things in an artist's life. And then now, if you have a bad manager, I tell acts all the time, repeat business is the biggest part of the business. And if you got a manager that nobody likes to deal with, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh, well, you know what? I want to book Dreamers. Nah, they do a great show. I love them to death, but I don't want to deal with their manager.
Right.
So that's repeat bookings are a very big part. Artists have to remain very steadfast about their craft.
So I want to ask you this before we're going to go on to our dream game.
Okay.
That follows up with that. What do you think about the contract then with a booking agent? Because, right, so if you end up with someone or a manager that's not serving you well, and you already have a contract, I don't know, maybe you've gone in for a year or 2 years, or to get this agent, and everybody who's at the top is not always, again, that's somebody that's kind.
It doesn't mean that they're the best.
That doesn't mean they're the best.
Mean that they're going to be the best for your career.
That's right, for your career. And it doesn't always mean that their personality is the best, right?
Right.
So when an artist is going into a contractual deal with the management company, is there anything that you can suggest for them when they're looking at that?
I think that if they're going to look at any kind of management, if they're going to look at any kind of, talent booking representation, signing exclusively with them,
right,
they have to be very steadfast about the language that they're going to put in the contract. Like, I over there manage Sybil. I don't have a contract with her. And I told her, she was like, oh, we can sign paperwork and this, that, and other. I was like, nah, I'm not going to sign. I don't want to sign anything with you. I said, we can have a gentleman's agreement on me representing you. I said, I don't want to sit there and give you paperwork, because what's going to happen is if we sign a contract and I don't do what I'm supposed to do, and you don't want me to be your manager again, now we have to go to a lawyer to dissolve what we have, instead of being able to walk away as friends. I want to be in a position, and I want to show you what I can do as your representative, and I want you to come to me and say, no, I want to sign you.
Got it.
Yeah. I mean, that's just me personally. I'd rather have a gentleman's agreement with somebody and be like, look, let me show you what I can do for you before we sit there and sign paperwork. Because once you sit there and get a lawyer involved, now you're talking about, that's pretty much like a marriage. So now you're going to have to dissolve that marriage. So now we paid to sit there and come together. Now we're going to have to pay to break away from it. And that's the problem. You got a lot of people out there that are looking, they find somebody that they know is a great artist, and they know that this artist has the potential to be really great, and they sign them. The artist breaks big, but now the artist is upset and not happy because this person is not representing them correctly, and they want to break away. And this person is going to make tons and tons of money off of you for X amount of years because they have a contract.
That's right. That's right. So I guess what I'm hearing is, and you'll have to come back again and we'll talk just contracts maybe, because it's so important, and just the business of the business. Okay, Dino's going to come back. I'm offering you.
No problem.
Talking about the business of the business and contracts, because it's a lot more complicated. But for right now, I think what I'm hearing you say is really to trust who you're with. I mean, a lot of it is
you need to trust who you're with. And I think that what artists need to understand is that you do not allow somebody to make all of your decisions. You need to be involved in all of the decision making when it comes down to your career. You know what kind of artist you want to be. You know what kind of music you want to do. What I try to do when I'm dealing with any artist is make their life as simple and easy as possible. I tell promoters or anybody that books an artist with me, you would rather have a happy artist come and do a show for you than have a disgruntled artist come and do a show for you. Because a happy artist is going to come and see that they were treated right. They're going to sit there. If you want a 45-minute show or an hour show, you might get an hour and a half just because that artist is like, yo, this person brought me in. They treated me very well. I'm going to sit there and put my best foot forward. Now, you got a disgruntled artist that, I'm going out there, do what I got to do, and I'm getting off stage and I'm out of here.
That's right.
So it's a very big difference on how a disgruntled artist is going to act or a happy artist is going to act. And it all comes down to representation. But you also got a lot of guys out there that are managers that are disgruntled artists. They tried to be an artist and they didn't make it, so they will let me try management, and they looked up and caught a great artist. Because I've seen it happen a million times. I've looked at artist writers and stuff like that, and I'm like, when I discuss it with the artist, they'll be like, oh, that's not for me, that's him. But he's not the artist. You got managers out there that want to be artists, and they're no longer, they never broke as an artist, so now they got an artist that they can deal with, but they're living their artist life vicariously through the artists that they manage.
The artists that they manage, and then they're disgruntled on top of it.
Yep.
That is not what you want. Dreamers, artists, creatives, talent. Really, I thank you so much for Tanisha. I hope that Dino really, again, gave so much wonderful information. So I am so glad that you sent in your question. And Dino, where can people reach you too if they want to reach out to you?
I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter.
What's your handle? In case Tanisha needs something further.
Dinoco ENT.
Dinoco ENT across all social media platforms.
All social media platforms.
Amazing. All right. Are you ready for the dream game?
Yep.
Okay, we are moving on with Dino Perera to the dream game next. Get ready. We are back with Dino Perera, and we are going to play the dream game.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all about you, so don't worry. It's easy. It's all about you. So you told us a little bit about, music has always been in your DNA. Are you living your childhood dream?
No, actually, I'm not. When I was in college, I was taking up communications and business. I actually wanted to be like Spike Lee. I wanted to be a technical director or either a cameraman.
Wow.
I got drafted into the music business.
You got drafted into the music business. That is amazing. But probably those same principles that you would have taken to, do the work like Spike Lee as a filmmaker, technical guru. I'm sure you're using those same principles now.
Definitely.
So what is one of your toughest, because here, we want to inspire people, and listen, life is not easy, right? It's tough out here, dreamers, right? It's hard. But I do believe a dream is always worth chasing, following, and manifesting. We're not just talking about dreaming in the sky for it to remain, because that's what it will remain, just a dream. So what is one of your maybe toughest challenges, and how did you get over it?
I think one of the biggest challenges in this business is, like I said, it's just like, I think my biggest problem with the music business is that we have a lot of great acts out there, but they don't understand once they don't have that hit record anymore that they're not going to be able to command the same amount of money. You have a lot of acts out there that have had big records, and maybe that record was big 5, 10, 15 years ago. They feel that they should still make the same amount of money. So sitting there having to deal with that and on a daily basis, because you have people that want to book certain acts, and then when you sit there and go to them and be like, okay, well, this is the amount of money they want, they'd be like, they haven't had a record out in 20 years.
Right.
You know, it's very hard to sit there and try and.
So how do you overcome that big challenge? How did you overcome
You have to, I mean, one thing about me is that I'm very honest with any act I deal with. I don't like to play games. I'm very transparent about it. I'm like, look, you know, no problem. I would love for you to make every penny that you can make, but it's just not realistic. That pricing, you know, some people are going to sit there and be like, oh, they're going to tell them what they want to hear. I'm not going to tell anybody what they want to hear. I'm going to tell them the truth. Now, you're going to deal with that truth however you deal with it, but I've been honest with you about it. Nobody's going to pay you that kind of money. That's like, I have acts call me all the time. Yo, I want to do a basketball game. I want to do a football game. Nobody's paying you. And any basketball or football game, if you're going to do a halftime performance, you're going to get 5.5, if you're lucky, 6 minutes.
Yeah.
Nobody's paying you $200,000 to do that.
Got it.
It's not going to happen.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
And I've had acts come to me and be like, oh, I want 100,000, I want 200,000, I want 50,000. Nobody's going to pay you that kind of money for 5.5 minutes of work. When you're getting paid that, you might have been getting paid that money for an hour and a half show. Nobody's going to pay you that.
So it sounds like what I'm hearing is really just being a truth sayer.
Yeah, you have to be. I think that anybody should be, if you're going to deal with acts, you try to be as honest as possible. But you got people out there, all they're thinking about is, I just want to make my commission. I don't care who it hurts, who loses, whatever. That's like, a lot of the things I do for some of my clients, I don't have to do. I don't get paid for. But I like to do it because I think that it helps them as well as help me. You know, like when my clients have shows, I'll be like, hey, give me copies of your flyer. I'll post it on my social media as well. That's not my job to do as an agent.
Yeah.
But I still do it because I still take it very personally because I booked an act.
Yeah,
these acts, like I said, some of these acts are not just people that I do business with, they're my friends.
Yeah. That's
you know, we speak on a regular basis. Hey, happy birthday, you know, happy Father's Day, Merry Christmas, this, that, and the other. We are friends too.
Yeah, well, that's a great transition into our next question with friends. So if you were getting your Dreamers Unite award, and one day we will have a Dreamers Unite award here. It's one of our dreams. You know, who would you like to thank? Because I think gratitude is so important, to thank the people that helped you along your journey.
I would definitely have to thank my mother and my father and my family, my son, for dealing with my craziness. I don't think that any of them saw me creating a company and being in business for 17 years later. All of the artists that I've worked with over the years who have, like I said, have not just been business partners, but have been friends of mine. You know, I consider quite a few of the artists that I deal with friends. So it would be a couple of people.
Okay, and they know who they are.
Oh yes, definitely.
All right. Okay, you know who you are. So we're also a community here that we like to dream and share and manifest as a community, and we want to affirm your next steps, and like you said, and help promote whatever you're doing. And so what's on the horizon for you?
Well, like I said, when I initially created my company, I wanted it to be a 3-division company. I wanted to have the talent booking, talent management, and record label. I am now at that point where I know I am ready to start a record label. So I'm definitely looking for partners, looking for financing to start a record label. I have acts come to me all the time. I have access to acts that have had, you know, platinum and gold selling records that want to do records. I was just with an artist. I just did a game out in Oklahoma, and the artist was like, yo, and it was so funny. We did the game last week, and we did the game on Monday, came home on Tuesday, and his record was just certified platinum the day before, the day after.
Congratulations.
So, you know, and he was like, hey man, I got all these records that I want to put out, but I'm not doing it unless I have a real label. And I think I'm going to do a label. I'm going to do it the way it used to be done, where you go and you find real acts, and acts know how to go and do interviews. So there's going to be some kind of artist development there, which I think that aspect has gone away. So it's definitely, that's my next step.
What is the name of do you know yet?
I haven't decided yet.
Do you know the name? Okay, because I was just gonna, we were just gonna confirm the name right here.
I haven't decided on the name yet.
All right. So, a record label, Dino Perera, that is the dream that's on the horizon. So we are going to claim it for you, name it, claim it, and then you're gonna own it. And then of course, you're gonna have to come back here because, you disclosed it here first. I hope we're the first to bring this.
I definitely have. I already have acts that I'm already looking at and interested in.
All right.
And plus, always open to look at and listening to new up and coming people.
All right. Okay, Dino, we claim it. Your record label. We don't know the name yet, but it's here. I cannot thank you enough for, again, your wisdom, your spirit, your energy, your determination, your grit to make it in this industry and beyond. And I look forward to us staying in touch. I look forward to, again, you may be coming back, sharing some more words of wisdom, taking us into a deep dive of more of what you do. And then, of course, the record label.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So, dreamers, I know that you do not want this to come to an end, but you know what I say, all good things must come to an end at some point. However, this is really not the end. It is really actually just a new beginning. So listen, we also need your support. Dino, tell them what to do. Like Dreamers Unite, subscribe. That's what I mean.
100% follow. Come, everybody. They have to follow on all social media platforms.
That's right. Thank you. You heard it from Dino. Follow us, subscribe, support us, and of course, continue to support Dino Perera and all of his efforts. And again, they can reach you.
Dynaco ENT, that's on all social media platforms.
Dynaco ENT. Well, dreamers, I will see you again right here in the studio, and I thank you so much. See you again soon.